Roy Drusky was a prominent figure in the world of country music, celebrated for his rich baritone voice that brought a sense of warmth and intimacy to his recordings. Often referred to as the Perry Como of country music due to his smooth, easy listening style, he stood out as one of the steadiest performers in the genre during the 1960s and early 1970s. His songs often delved into the nuances of love, heartbreak, and the everyday struggles of life, resonating with listeners who appreciated his polished delivery over the more raucous, honky-tonk sounds of the era. Roy's career was marked by consistent chart success, but his story extends beyond the music charts. It encompasses a journey of shifting ambitions, personal resilience, deep family ties, and a late-in-life embrace of faith that reshaped his path. Even today, his contributions to the Nashville Sound and his role in bridging traditional country with broader appeal continue to echo in the genre, reminding us of the quiet power of a well-crafted ballad. Roy Frank Drusky Jr. entered the world on June 22, 1930, in Atlanta, Georgia, a city that was still healing from the scars of the Civil War while grappling with the harsh realities of the Great Depression. The 1930s in Atlanta were a time of economic turmoil, with factories slowing down, unemployment soaring, and families like the Druskys relying on sheer determination to make ends meet. Bread lines stretched through the streets, and the air was thick with the dust from distant storms that symbolized the nation's widespread despair. Radio became a lifeline for many, offering escapism through big band music, fiery sermons from preachers, and the emerging twang of country artists broadcasting from barn dances and local stations. Roy's early years were shaped by this environment of hardship. His father, Roy Frank Drusky Sr., passed away when Roy was only 5 years old, leaving his mother, Laverne, to raise him single-handedly in a modest household. Laverne worked tirelessly, playing the organ at the local church, where the hymns she performed filled their home with melody and provided a small income. These church services, with their gospel harmonies and emotional depth, subtly influenced young Roy, embedding a foundation of rhythm and emotion that would later define his musical style, even though he didn't fully recognize it at the time. As a child, Roy showed little initial interest in pursuing music professionally. His mother's attempts to guide him toward the piano through a few basic lessons were met with resistance. He preferred the outdoors, where he could channel his energy into sports. Baseball became his true passion, a way to escape the poverty and instability that surrounded him. Under the sticky humidity of Georgia summers, Roy spent countless hours practicing his swing, dreaming of a future in the major leagues. He excelled in high school, drawing attention from scouts who saw potential in his athletic build and determination. There's a persistent story in his biography that he even turned down an offer from the Cleveland Indians farm team, realizing the odds of making it to the big leagues were slim and that the minor league life might not provide the stability he craved. This decision carried a subtle regret throughout his life, a reminder of roads not taken, much like the themes of missed opportunities that would appear in his later songs. Meanwhile, the world around him was changing dramatically. World War II dominated his teenage years, with Atlanta transforming into a hub of military activity. Bases sprang up, women filled factory jobs, and the city pulsed with a mix of patriotism and anxiety. Roy, like many young men of his generation, enlisted in the U.S. Navy shortly after high school graduation in 1948, serving during the transition into the Cold War era. It was aboard those naval vessels, surrounded by the constant hum of engines and the loneliness of sailors far from home, that music truly captured his attention. He purchased his first guitar during this time, teaching himself chords and strumming tunes to entertain his shipmates. His natural baritone voice, deep and resonant, cut through the salty ocean air, offering comfort and distraction from the rigors of duty. Singing became more than a hobby. It was a solace, a way to process the isolation and uncertainty of military life. Upon his discharge in 1950, Roy returned to Georgia with a renewed sense of purpose. He enrolled at Emory University in Atlanta, pursuing a degree in veterinary medicine. The choice made practical sense. Working with animals promised steady employment in the rural areas surrounding the city where farms dotted the landscape and veterinarians were always in demand. He envisioned a life helping heal horses, dogs, and livestock, a far cry from the glamour of entertainment. However, music refused to remain on the periphery. While juggling classes and studies, Roy formed a small band called the Southern Ranch Boys, performing at local venues on weekends. College life blurred into a mix of academic pressures and musical experimentation, but the early 1950s were an exhilarating period for country music nationwide. Icons like Hank Williams were dominating the airwaves with raw tales of heartbreak, and the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville was beaming out live broadcasts that inspired countless aspiring artists. Roy caught the music bug fully during this time, realizing that his baritone voice and growing songwriting skills held more allure than a veterinary career. After a couple of years, he made the bold decision to drop out of Emory, swapping textbooks and stethoscopes for guitars and microphones. His first significant break came in Decatur, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta, where he landed a gig at a local radio station. There, he performed live sets, blending his smooth vocals with country standards, and also worked as a disc jockey, spinning records and engaging listeners with his charismatic on-air presence. His voice, described as honey smooth, drew in audiences, building a modest but loyal following in the small-town circuit. This humble beginning boosted his confidence and honed his skills as both a performer and a broadcaster. In 1953, at the age of 23, Roy signed his first recording contract with Starday Records, releasing his debut single, Such a Fool. Though it didn't chart, the experience opened doors, leading to an invitation to join the prestigious Grand Ole Opry. Stepping onto that iconic stage in Nashville, mingling with established legends, must have felt like a validation for the young man from Atlanta who had once dreamed of baseball glory. Roy's career trajectory took an unexpected turn northward in the mid-1950s when he relocated to Minneapolis, Minnesota, to work at radio station KEVE. This move placed him in a vastly different cultural landscape. Far from the southern accents and mild winters he knew, Minneapolis was characterized by harsh, snowy seasons, a strong Scandinavian heritage, and entertainment scenes that leaned toward polka and folk music. Yet country music had carved out a niche there, with fans in the Midwest yearning for the authentic, down-home sounds of the South. At KEVA, Roy served as a disc jockey, hosting shows that featured country hits and his own live performances. He also headlined at local venues like the Flame Club, a popular spot where he charmed audiences with his relaxed style and heartfelt ballads. These years in Minneapolis were formative, marked by long, solitary nights on the air that fueled his songwriting. He poured his experiences of displacement and longing into his lyrics, creating tunes that captured the emotional undercurrents of everyday life. A pivotal moment came in 1957 during a tour stop by country star Webb Pierce. Pierce's bandmate, Sonny Burnett, overheard Roy's original compositions and took one back to Nashville. Alone with You? Farron Young recorded it, turning it into a #1 hit on the country charts. Roy followed up with another song, Country Girl, which also became a chart topper for Young. These successes established Roy as a respected songwriter, even before his own performing career fully took off. His time in the North, though challenging with its cultural contrasts, sharpened his craft and built a network that would prove invaluable. By 1958, Roy made the permanent move to Nashville, Tennessee, the epicenter of country music known as Music City. This era saw the rise of the Nashville Sound, a sophisticated production style pioneered by producers like Owen Bradley, who blended traditional country elements with pop influences, replacing raw fiddles and steel guitars with lush strings, backing choirs, and orchestral arrangements to appeal to a wider audience. Nashville was buzzing with innovation as the genre fought to stay relevant amid the rock and roll explosion led by Elvis Presley. Roy signed with Columbia Records initially, but his early singles didn't gain much traction. Persistent, he continued honing his songwriting. In 1960, he switched to Decca Records and began collaborating closely with Owen Bradley. Their partnership yielded immediate results. Another, a song Roy co-wrote, climbed to number 1, 2 on the country charts. The track exemplified the Nashville Sound. Smooth orchestration complementing Roy's velvety baritone, creating a sound that was both intimate and accessible. That same year, Anymore, another of his compositions, reached number 1, 3, and even crossed over when pop singer Teresa Brewer recorded a version. Roy's distinctive voice earned him the enduring nickname the Perry Como of country, highlighting his crooner-like quality that made him ideal for radio play. Unlike the wild, beer-soaked honky-tonk performers, Roy appealed to listeners seeking comfort on quiet evenings, his music evoking a sense of calm reflection. The 1960s marked the pinnacle of Roy's career, a decade filled with consistent hits and growing recognition. In 1961, Secondhand Rose peaked at number 1. 3, a melancholic ballad about love that had lost its bloom, showcasing Roy's ability to convey subtle emotional pain through his delivery. He also recorded a duet with country queen Kitty Wells titled I Can't Tell My Heart That, where their voices intertwined seamlessly, like longtime companions sharing a story. An intriguing behind-the-scenes anecdote from this period involves Owen Bradley offering Roy a choice between 2 songs, 3 Hearts in a Tangle or I Fall to Pieces. Roy selected the former, turning it into a respectable hit, while Patsy Cline immortalized the latter, propelling it to legendary status. In later reflections, Roy expressed no bitterness, acknowledging Patsy's unique emotional intensity as the perfect fit for the song. He shared vivid memories of touring with her, their shared road shows where Patsy's fiery personality shone through, belting out songs backstage with tears streaming from the lyrics' raw power. Roy described her as someone who could make every word feel profoundly personal, hitting listeners in the core. They navigated the touring life together, laughing off mishaps such as Patsy's firm insistence on upfront payments from promoters, with Roy often stepping in to support her negotiations. These interactions highlighted the camaraderie among country artists during that golden age. In 1963, Roy transitioned to Mercury Records, and his debut single for the label, Peel Me a Nanner, written by Bill Anderson, cracked the top 10. This lighthearted, quirky number about losing one's mind over love added a playful dimension to his repertoire, showing his versatility beyond somber ballads. However, his crowning achievement arrived in 1965 with Yes, Mr. Peters, a duet with Priscilla Mitchell that soared to number 1. The song cleverly depicted an office affair through phone conversations, with Roy and Priscilla's voices exchanging flirtatious lines, laden with guilt and excitement. Their chemistry was undeniable, leading to 2 collaborative albums, Love's Eternal Triangle in 1965 and Together Again in 1966, both filled with harmonious duets that captured the complexities of relationships. Roy continued his hot streak with tracks like Pick of the Week, penned by Liz Anderson, and My Friends Are Gonna Be Strangers, which initially outperformed Merle Haggard's later version on the charts. A landmark moment came in 1968 when Roy became one of the first artists to recognize the talent of Chris Christopherson, recording Jody and the Kid. The song, a poignant narrative of a fatherless child by the water's edge, resonated deeply with Roy, echoing his own childhood losses and adding a layer of personal vulnerability to his interpretation. It marked Christopherson's first hit as a songwriter, underscoring Roy's influence in nurturing emerging talent. Beyond music, Roy ventured into Hollywood in 1965, appearing in 3 low-budget films that blended country music with light-hearted storytelling. In White Lightning Express, he not only acted, but also sang the title theme, contributing to the film's rustic charm. The Golden Guitar and 40-Acre Feud, sometimes listed as 4-Acre Feud, followed, featuring Roy alongside other country stars like Ferlin Husky in comedic plots centered on rural feuds and musical escapades. These movies, though not blockbuster hits, allowed Roy to explore acting and expand his public persona, enjoying the novelty of seeing himself on the big screen. Offstage, he took on production roles, guiding emerging artists such as Pete Sayers and Brenda Byers, sharing his industry knowledge to help shape their careers. As the decade closed, Long, Long Texas Road reached number 1, 5 in 1970, marking his last major chart success. The country music landscape was shifting toward the grittier, outlaw sound, popularized by Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson, making Roy's polished style seem somewhat outdated. Nevertheless, he adapted by remaking classics, including A Satisfied Mind in 1973, which became his final top 40 entry. Delving deeper into Roy's personal life reveals a man whose existence extended far beyond the spotlight. In 1957, during his Minneapolis radio days, he met Bobby Jean Swafford, a woman from Chattanooga with a strong faith background. They married that same year, forging a partnership that provided stability amid the unpredictable demands of touring and recording. Bobby became his unwavering support, helping him navigate the highs and lows of fame. Together they raised 3 sons, Roy Frank III, affectionately called Twig, Tracy Allen, known as Tad, and Darrell Bryan, nicknamed Tip. Family remained Roy's cornerstone, with stories depicting him as a dedicated father who taught his boys guitar chords and prioritized quiet family dinners after long nights at the Opry. One particularly touching recollection involves singer Ronnie McDowell, who in the 1970s heard Roy perform one of his songs on the radio, sparking a lasting friendship. Roy's generosity extended to community efforts. He and Bobby frequently visited an elderly home in Portland, Tennessee, organizing fundraisers and performing songs to brighten residents' days. His compassionate nature shone through in these acts, reflecting a man who valued human connections over celebrity status. A profound transformation occurred in 1980 when Roy, who had been raised with a loose religious foundation, joined the Seventh-day Adventist Church, influenced by Bobby's upbringing. This shift was dramatic, moving him from the secular world of country tours to a life centered on Sabbath observance and spiritual commitment. He toured extensively with Kenneth Cox Ministries for 15 years, integrating his country ballads with gospel messages to reach audiences in new ways. Roy recorded several gospel albums for Chapel Records, transforming familiar hymns into deeply personal expressions of faith, his baritone lending a soothing, reverent tone. This phase added significant depth to his character. The artist who once sang of fleeting earthly romances now focused on eternal themes. An often overlooked aspect of his life was his hobby as a pilot. He flew with friends, including Randy Hughes, who tragically piloted Patsy Cline's fatal flight. Roy shared reflections on the sky's unpredictability, drawing parallels to life's fragility. Remarkably, Roy's life remained free of scandals, his clean reputation mirroring the purity of his melodies. Yet, his story is rich with human contradictions. The aspiring baseball player who became a music icon, the refined crooner thriving in a rugged genre, and the public figure who found profound peace in private faith. While Roy avoided personal controversies, his musical style sparked ongoing debates within the country music community. Traditionalists criticized the Nashville Sound, which Roy embodied through his orchestral arrangements and smooth vocals, arguing that it diluted the genre's authentic roots, replacing the raw, fiddle-driven honky-tonk with pop-infused polish that seemed too commercial. Was Roy a pioneer expanding country's horizons, or a contributor to its softening? In interviews, Roy defended the evolution, emphasizing how it broadened appeal and ensured the genre's survival against rock and roll's dominance. Music evolves, he would say thoughtfully, advocating for the strings that enhanced his baritone without apology. Another layer of nuance emerged after his religious conversion. Some within his church community suggested he abandoned secular music entirely, viewing it as incompatible with faith. Roy, however, saw his continued Opry performances as a form of ministry, using his platform to subtly share his testimony and demonstrate that faith and fame could harmoniously coexist. He actively participated in church life, teaching Sabbath school classes, and serving as an elder, balancing his worlds with grace. Historically, the Nashville Sound's legacy remains contested. Did it rescue country from obscurity or compromise its soul? Roy's career encapsulated this tension, his hits serving as bridges between old-school twang and modern accessibility. The broader impact of Roy Drusky's story extends well into today's cultural landscape. As a key architect of the Nashville Sound, he paved the way for crossover artists like Glenn Campbell, who blended country with pop elements to reach mainstream audiences. By being among the first to record Chris Christopherson's work, Roy opened doors for the singer-songwriter movement, with Christopherson later crediting him for that initial breakthrough. His remarkable 46-year tenure with the Grand Ole Opry ensured that classic country tunes remained alive as he performed regularly until his final days, preserving the genre's heritage for new generations. Culturally, Roy humanized country music, his soothing baritone offering solace to older fans during the turbulent 1960s, a time of social upheaval, civil rights struggles, and the Vietnam War. His music evoked nostalgia for simpler eras, providing emotional refuge. On a subtler political note, Roy's faith-inspired acts of kindness, community support, and charitable work reflected a quiet form of activism, emphasizing compassion in divided times. From Roy, we glean valuable lessons, life's unexpected detours, such as abandoning baseball or veterinary school, can lead to profound fulfillment. His contradictions resonate universally, pursuing ambition while seeking inner peace, maintaining public poise amid private challenges. Emotionally, his battle with lung cancer in the early 2000s exemplified resilience. Despite years of complications, he continued singing, his voice fading, but his determination unwavering. Lesser-known facets include his behind-the-scenes production work, quietly influencing other careers, and his bold 1974 cover of Elton John's Dixie Lily, which daringly fused musical worlds. In reflection, Roy Drusky emerges as a man whose voice and life left an indelible mark, lingering with the gentle persistence of a summer evening's haze. He passed away on September the 23rd, 2004, at age 74, in Portland, Tennessee, encircled by Bobby and his sons, following a prolonged struggle with lung cancer. His departure was understated, mirroring the steady grace that defined him. The core lessons from his journey: welcome change with open arms, hold faith and family as anchors, and find strength in quiet perseverance. In an era of clamor, Roy exemplified the beauty of authenticity, a song delivered with sincerity, a heart that endured through it all. His melodies continue to offer comfort, a testament to the enduring human spirit.